When Subaru first launched the Legacy last year, it was quickly followed by a new addition, the Legacy Outback. Both of these estates offered great performance, peace of mind, and little luxury touches that made them a good buy when compared to others in the class. Now, the Legacy was bold and it was brash, yet it appealed to drivers because of its practical utility nature. It could do the rounds of the farmers' fields and still had a little extra kick to keep the drivers happy. What it didn't appeal to was the lucrative executive market. So to bridge that gap, Subaru have launched this, the Legacy Saloon. The go anywhere, anytime capabilities of this car have been very well disguised. At first glance, you wouldn't think that it could go through boggy waters or drifting snow, but thanks to the all-wheel drive capabilities, it can. In terms of styling, Subaru have tried for the slick, executive look. Well, that's what they were aiming for anyway. What spoils the look of this car for me is the front. It's obviously taken from its estate brothers, but it fails to complement the modern, meaner look at the back of the car. Still, a redeeming factor is the side skirts and the alloy wheels, which come as standards on all models. Once inside, you'll find that some effort has been made to steer away from those famously bland Japanese interiors. Without much success, I'm afraid. However, you do get some nice luxury touches. The leather seats come as standard on the saloon, along with electric windows and climate control. And if it's little extras you're after, then you can opt for the Electric's luxury package, which comes complete with cruise control and my favourite, electric seats. But luxury or not, there just isn't the kind of build quality in here that you expect in the executive car park. The seats, surprisingly, are manually operated. The buttons and the switches all feel a little bit flimsy. And the steering wheel, well, it just doesn't suit the car. It's huge. It would seem more in place in a bus. So will this affect the handling of the Legacy? Well, there's only one way to find out. This is the automatic version with the 2.5 litre engine producing 160 brake horsepower. What's very disappointing is that you really can't feel that power. There's just simply no kick there. Apparently it takes just over 10 seconds to get from 0 to 60, but it actually feels like an eternity before the engine starts to respond. And that lack of responsiveness gets very frustrating when you're driving around town. There's certainly no burning rubber in the traffic lights in this one. But when you get the revs up into the mid-range, the Legacy picks up quite nicely. It has a top speed of just under 130 miles per hour, and it's brilliant for cruising up and down the motorway in. Now let's get back to the steering. Although responsive, I think it feels far too light, and there really isn't the instant power in the automatic version to get you out of a tricky situation should you spin that wheel a bit too much. What about the all-wheel drive system? Well, it should mean that this vehicle corners as if it's on rails. Now, it does have an all-wheel drive badge on the back, but that really isn't reflected in the handling. In general, the whole ride is far too soft, and it just isn't entertaining enough. The redeeming factor of this car is that it's actually not that bad value for money. You get all the trimmings, a decent engine, and not a bad-looking car for a reasonable price of around £18,000. If you're not bothered about that luxury pack and you do want to use this car as a utility vehicle, then you could save yourself nearly £3,000, as that's how much those extras cost. All in all, the Legacy Saloon isn't a bad car. This 2.5 litre engine should prove to be far more entertaining with a manual gearbox, and I'm sure that it is. What Subaru are trying to do with the Legacy is to break its mould. They want it to leave the country lanes behind and head for the road to town. But it isn't quite there yet, and it would take rather a posh farmer who would use this car to chase his sheep in.